Baseball. It's been America's pastime since the 1860s, and it still captivates millions. But does anyone really know what it takes to make a great team? Some say it's the general managers and scouts. They have that uncommon eye that allows them to assemble winning teams based on gut feelings.
For the draft, we have gut feel players. You can just feel it, and you know he's going to be a good baseball player.
But what if there was a mathematical formula secretly embedded within the wealth of baseball statistics? A formula that could accurately predict a player's contribution to winning and losing.
Studying baseball in the way that I do, I come to the conclusion that something that people believe to be true isn't.
Bill James spearheaded a new generation of baseball statisticians who believe this is the case. They claim to have uncovered formulas that allow them to select a team, help manage the game, improve strategies for hitting, pitching, base running, and defense. What's more, with ever-increasing high-tech equipment, they have results to prove it. And they're taking baseball into a new era.
The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
So what if all it really took to win the World Series was a calculator and a stat book?
Thank you. Enjoy the game.
How do we watch a baseball game? From the couch in our living room, from the sports bar, the dugout, the bleachers, or the press box. All have a particular perception that only sees what it wants to see. And then there's Bill James. He's a writer and maverick statistician, and he has a very particular way of seeing the game. For him, it's clear that what we see on the surface is only part of the story.
We don't base what we believe on the real world, we base what we believe on the image of the world that's in our minds. When you change the way that the image enters the mind, you change what you believe to be true.
And what Bill believes to be true is changing the way many view baseball. The real game belies a secret world that depends on an invisible play of speed and perception, judgment and instinct. Can these skills be measured? That's the big question for any baseball club that wants to win games.
Our fifth round was Tommy Mendoza, who is in big league camp right now. Our first pick was Trevor Bell, and then P.J.
Traditionalists like Eddie Baines say they know how to create a winning team. Eddie's an old-time scout for the Los Angeles Angels, and he knows what he's looking for.
There's 5 tools: hit, arm, run, power, field, and you start there. That's really basic. But then you really dig and try to get to know the young man as well as you possibly can.
For scouts like Eddie, everything depends upon how good a pitcher looks to the eye. Can he throw? Or how well a catcher catches? How fast a runner sprints? Or how smoothly a hitter swings the bat? It's not a science, but Eddie's been able to put together good teams of young players for years. But Bill James had a very different way of looking at the sport. An ordinary baseball fan from Kansas City, Bill had a mission. He wanted to really understand objectively how and why teams win. Bill was circumspect about the emphasis some scouts put on the visible performance of players. He thought that approach alone was too subjective.
Baseball is a world in which there is a great deal of received wisdom. There's a great deal of things that people have known for generations, whether they're true or not. And sometimes, many times, most of the time, 99% of the time, the things that people know are the enemies of what they learn.
And with so much money wrapped up in winning and losing, Bill believed it was worth a closer look. So he proposed a way of looking at the game based on hard statistics and raw data. It can be plugged into equations with names like linear weights formula and win shares that shows a player's true value on the diamond. He began to compare things like on-base percentages and slugging to winning. And some of his findings will surprise you.
Essentially, what I did was to misuse my education. I studied economics, but rather than applying it to economics, which is another thing which is too complicated for me, I applied the same sorts of methods to analyzing a baseball game. It is a characteristic of statisticians that they see the game by the thousands. It's a way of looking at the biggest possible picture of the game, backing away from it a great distance and trying to see patterns that aren't apparent close up.
By backing away from the diamond, Bill believed he could eliminate hunches or the fact that someone looks like a ball player. By examining statistics with new formulas, Bill's laid the foundation of an original and completely scientific approach to the game. He dubbed this new system sabermetrics, and it's galvanized the way some modern managers play ball. Bill's obsession with baseball started a long time ago.
I was just captured by a stack of baseball cards when I was 11 years old and started listening to games on the radio between box scores, baseball cards, and radio baseball games. Began spending every waking moment doing those things.
But for Bill, even at the age of 11, his view of baseball began to take an unusual turn.
One of the mystifying things about a baseball card is that it creates a human image out of numbers. You can write a chart of numbers which represent a baseball player, and that player will have human characteristics, speed and power or slowness, and lack of power.
It was this bunch of numbers on the back of bubblegum cards that started Bill on his quest. Through a stint in the Army and the study of economics, Bill's fixation with baseball only grew. Finally, in his late 20s, Bill took a job as a night watchman in a local pork and beans company.
Your job is to watch the night, you know. I'd walk the plant once an hour and click the keys to show that I'd been where I was supposed to be, and the rest of the time I would sit and do my baseball research. I took stacks and stacks of sporting news with box scores in them, and I tried to figure out things that I could find in the box scores that nobody had ever found before.
And it was here in the solitude of the factory that Bill began to write down his findings in a collection of self-published books. And little by little, Bill's musings began to find an audience. To understand Bill's approach, you have to understand a few basic truths about the sport. These are truths that make statistical analysis possible. The first and most important factor is the clarity and simplicity of the geometrical diamond around which the game is played.
Baseball is extremely organized. It's the only sport in which the players take turns.
Unlike the clouded clusters of players in soccer, basketball, and football, racing toward goalposts on opposite ends of the field, each baseball player stands alone.
The alternatives for things that a player can do they're quite limited, which creates a very orderly universe.
A second quality is the fact that no time restraints are put on a game. Each inning is played for as long as a team can avoid a third out. If no outs are made, the game theoretically can go on forever. But if the game can be played forever, what moves it on? Bill argues that the out is the sport's only finite component, the only commodity baseball has to offer. Until 27 outs are made, the game continues. As long as the game's played, the team that's up at bat has the ability to score. This means, according to some sabermetricists, that strategy and strategy alone can have a greater impact on baseball than in any other sport.
If a player's getting on base, that means he doesn't make outs. The more you don't make outs, the more you score runs. So the outs are precious.
In Bill's mind, it's around this dance of the out that strategy can be scientifically derived. But you can't do this science without lots of information. Alan Schwartz is a baseball historian and author.
Most people think that baseball's infatuation with statistics is new, and it is not. Baseball's infatuation with numbers, goes all the way back to 1845 and the first games and the first box score. The popularization of it is new. It started to become well-known and popular in the 1980s and 1990s with Bill James and with computer power and with Microsoft Excel and then of course ultimately the internet.
By slowly unlocking the secrets hidden in over 100 years of data, Bill James took statistics to a new level. But was professional baseball ready? At first, Bill's ideas were shunned. But when his theories and formulas were noticed by the general managers of two major league teams, the Oakland A's and the Boston Red Sox, their fortunes changed.
Struck him out.